You know those moments when someone calls into a political show convinced they have the perfect defense, only to run straight into a wall of facts? That's exactly what happens here. A caller steps up to defend Donald Trump, but the host isn't letting talking points slide. What follows is a tense back and forth where claims are challenged, facts take center stage, and the conversation quickly shifts in an unexpected direction. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's jump into it, and afterward, I'll share my thoughts on this debate.
When we left Europe after the referendum,
Yes.
Europe imposed on the UK a particularly tough, rigid deal that has stunted growth in the UK and, threatened our defences as well. I would rather be allied. Trump's 3.5 years left of his tenancy, and then he's gone.
Well, there's some dispute over that, isn't there? There are suggestions that he might refuse to move. We don't know what will happen, but certainly, my problem with people saying he definitely will call another election and it will be free and fair and everything will be fine is that everybody who said that the fears about Trump were exaggerated at the beginning of his second term have been proved wrong. He's been worse, if anything, than people feared. So we do have to consider that possibility, don't we?
Well, is he worse? I mean, I think we could learn a few lessons here from Trump. Not everything he's doing, obviously, is correct, but he is putting his country first, and he's doing the things. Why should he be propping up NATO with funds disproportionate to the other contributors?
Well, hang on. But we're talking about the silencing of journalists. We're talking about threatening of academic institutions, the closing down of the Department for Education, thousands of people losing their jobs through these swinging cuts, thousands of people losing millions of people losing their social security. How is that good for America?
Why should the government and taxpayers be paying for people who aren't doing a job? Why should the department? We're closing down the NHS thing here because there's a doubling of duties and we're wasting money.
Well, we're not closing down the Department of Education, though, are we? We want people to be educated to a high standard. And also welfare payments, so-called welfare payments, are shown to pay dividends in terms of the whole of society. Cutting them saves money in the short term and means that there are more expenses to the exchequer in the long term.
Possibly, but what we're doing here is trying to cut out people who are robbing the taxpayer in welfare payments, and Trump is doing the same thing. He's just not prepared to pay people who are freeloaders. I
don't think that you understand the extent to which Trump is eroding the very fabric of democracy and becoming an authoritarian.
I'm not as clever as you.
It's not a question of cleverness. It's just a question of looking at what he is doing and saying this is an authoritarian figure. This completely changes the world order. America was supposed to be the leader of the free world, and we were supposed to be allied with them, and Europe was supposed to be allied with them. And that has been the case since the end of World War II. The US administration's behavior has fundamentally messed with the dynamic of that, and we need to do something in response. So what should we do? We ally ourselves with the wannabe dictator?
I think I would rather hitch my wagon to America in the long term on the basis that Trump isn't going to be there after 3.5 years than with Europe, who we've been at war with effectively for 500 years in one form or another, and who put us to the sword when we left, even as recently as 2016. They've been
I take
harsh.
issue with your framing of that. They were very clear that there was only one type of Brexit deal that was feasible and that would be disadvantageous to the UK. You can't just allow people to leave a union and to have more benefits or equal benefits than they had before they left it. That defeats the purpose of a union. They were very clear on that from day one. It's our politicians that lied to us and said that it wouldn't affect us in the way that it has.
Okay, I accept that. I accept that. Nonetheless, Germany, France, Spain, over 300-400 years, those alliances have shifted tremendously in all different directions. And as I say, I would feel more secure in England with America as my security blanket than Europe as my security blanket.
And what about even if we were able to obtain some favour from Donald Trump, what about the fact that he famously turns on a sixpence, listens most to the last person who was in his ear, changes his mind at the last minute? What about the instability that brings about?
I don't know, but I sense that on some of the this would be a massive issue to America. I don't believe that they would want to be bad friends, call it, with the United Kingdom, given the tie-up in security information, having a solid partner on the European front. I think it's a special relationship, and Trump, I think, he loved it when Keir Starmer pulled out a letter from the King, didn't he?
But then went on to slap tariffs on our steel, so obviously didn't mean that much to him, did it?
Well, we're putting VAT on all of his products. We're putting tariffs on his products. So, again,
in retaliation. Yeah, things are changing so quickly. I hear what you're saying, Spencer, and thank you for your call and thank you for making your debut.
So, there is a lot to unpack from that exchange. What really stood out to me wasn't just the disagreement itself. Political disagreements happen every single day. What stood out was how confident the caller sounded at the beginning compared to how the conversation unfolded once his claims were actually examined. Time and time again, he attempted to make a point, and time again, the host responded with facts, context, and direct questions that exposed the weaknesses in those arguments. And that's something we've been seeing more and more in modern politics. People often become so invested in a political figure, a political movement, or a particular narrative that they stop questioning whether the information they're hearing is actually accurate. Instead, they accept it at face value and repeat it as fact. The problem is that reality doesn't always cooperate with political talking points. Now, for those of you watching outside the United States, especially those who may think this is uniquely an American issue, trust me, it isn't. Similar debates are happening across the world. In many countries, people are becoming increasingly divided, consuming information that reinforces what they already believe, while dismissing anything that challenges their viewpoint. That's why exchanges like this are so interesting to watch. They reveal what happens when strongly held beliefs collide with scrutiny and evidence. I also think the host deserves a lot of credit here. It would have been easy to become emotional or turn the conversation into a shouting match. Instead, she stayed focused, addressed each argument as it came, and kept bringing the discussion back to the facts. That's what made the exchange so effective. Rather than relying on insults or personal attacks, she simply challenged the claims being made and allowed the audience to see the outcome for themselves. And honestly, that's something we need more of. We need more conversations where people are willing to ask questions, verify information, and hold public figures accountable regardless of political party. Healthy debate is important, but healthy debate only works when facts and evidence are part of the discussion. At the end of the day, moments like this remind us why critical thinking matters. It doesn't matter whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in the middle. No politician should be treated as though they're beyond criticism, and no public figure should get a free pass when the facts say otherwise. But that's just my perspective. I want to hear from you. What did you think about this exchange? Did the caller make any convincing points? Did the host handle the discussion fairly? And what was the moment that stood out to you the most? Drop your thoughts down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want more political commentary, analysis, and reactions like this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.